They blow a ring, a bubble ring, and then they swim through it. So, and what about surfing? Dolphins like to surf. Sea lions surf. Penguins surf. So, the Bhagavatam, and this is just, well, there's another thing that surfs. There's the World Dog Surfing Tournament in California that happens every year. So the dogs, they also surf. Do animals engage in sport? Yes, sir. Chimps like wrestling. It's one of the sports that they like to engage in. They wrestle. They do what's that? Slam, what's that? Body slam? Slam? What's in wrestling? They have something this, anyways, you slam, they slam the other chimp's body on the ground and then they declare victory. And this is their natural, it's not like trained. This is the chimps doing that. But the elephants can also be trained to play basketball, and they do a pretty good job of that. They do all kinds of sports. Basketball is very popular. Elephant basketball is popular in Thailand. And other natural sports, something that we all know, which you might not remember, is that, can you think? Sport, animals naturally sporting. Huh? It's a common animal, huh? Common animal that's known to sport. No, that's not a natural one, huh? No. Huh? Squirrels like to chase each other, and they run up and down trying to touch each other. And so they like to play tag. Another common one, cats. Cats like to play with rats and then kill them. But in the meantime, they really like to play with them. They hold them, they like to see them, they corner them, they torture them, they poke at them, they do all kinds of things to them. The poor rat's probably mentally dead before it physically wish it would die. The thing would kill it. But the poor rat, so cats do that. Dolphins also do the same thing. They catch fish and then they smack it with their tail and sends it flying, and then the other one smacks it, and then they smack it left, right, and center, and then they catch it with their mouth. It's true. Yep. No, that's not trained. They naturally play like that. And yeah, of course, dolphins, belugas blow bubbles, like to blow bubbles. So the animals, they experience the same. They experience these things, and they can actually play these a lot more efficiently than human beings. You'll see this. And another thing that chimps like, monkeys, you go to India, they like jumping around. Hanging, jumping, flipping upside down. They catch a branch and then go like this and then fly off. And what's so funny is that when humans do that, they get Olympic awards and they get this and they get that. And this thing was just born. It just sees its mom and dad do it, does the same thing. And the whole community does it, and nothing different. Or the monkeys, they do that. They see what humans do. Like that you will see when they see what humans do, they'll start mimicking. If they get a pair of glasses, they'll put it on. Because they see all the humans putting glasses, they put glasses on. You give them a phone, they'll keep it near their ear, and then they'll punch it, and try to mimic behavior. Why? There's some enjoyment, but this enjoyment is considered tuchcha. It's considered the enjoyment of animals. But as human beings, this is what we dream. We dream about doing these silly things. There are animals that go on hikes also. They're called mountain goats. That's what they do their whole life. They go hiking from mountain to mountain and mountaintop to mountaintop. So hiking in itself, this is silly because today people consider these things as spiritual. They think farming is spiritual. They think hiking is spiritual. They think blowing bubbles makes them feel good. And so dumb things like this. Yeah, you may feel a little good, but the animals are doing this anyways. And the whole point is that animals live their lives without thinking about what is going to happen to them after death. And human beings are supposed to think about this. Human beings are supposed to think, where have I come from? Who am I? What is my purpose in life? Who is God? These sort of questions people need to ask. But because people are impious, they are attracted by the pleasures that animals do. And we can see from these activities that the animals are doing that today's society is nothing but a society that's completely inspired by animal behavior. Because the animals can do the same thing. And they can do it pretty well. And why are we, what is this art museum if this elephant can paint this tree? Why? The elephants also, I mean, you can also set up a museum and the elephant goes and scribbles something on a canvas, and then you can sell that for $2 million or whatever. But this is not going to give one happiness. And the Srimad Bhagavatam uses animals to throw light that this is enjoyment that we have got this human form of life, this rare human form of life, which is, it's been easily obtained. What's that verse? Nirdeham adhyam sulabham sudurlabham. Nirdeham adhyam sulabham sudurlabham. That this human form of life, which is rarely obtained, has been easily obtained. Why is it easily obtained? It wasn't actually easy. We've at least gone through the 8.4, the other 8.8, sorry. So we have 8.4 million species. So 400,000 are human beings. So we've gone at least through 8 million species and obtained this human form of life. And we haven't gone through those 8 million species once. We've gone through them several times. But still we have obtained this human form of life. And instead of utilizing this human form of life for self-realization, if we become inspired by the animals, what a great misfortune, what a great loss. So this human form of life, and the Bhagavatam gives us this information because whatever we think we are enjoying as pleasure in the human form of life, you like skydiving. The eagle also skydives. The bald eagle skydives to go and catch its prey. That's exactly what it does. It does it probably every day. What is it? Some form of, was it squirrel or raccoon, or not squirrel, raccoon, but something like this. One of these furry mammals. They can have sex 75 times a day. Can you imagine? They have sex 75 times a day. We've experienced all of this pleasure. And we have moved past those species because they didn't satisfy us. They did not satisfy us. They will not satisfy us. And this is the unfortunate reality that all these animals, they seem like they're okay. It looks, when you see that dolphin surfing, wow, this dolphin is like, it's so happy, it's such a carefree life. It's not a carefree life. It's stupidity to think that it's carefree life. In fact, one of the reasons why Parikshit Maharaj was surprised that the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared as Matsya was that he said, this fish, the species of a fish, is one of the lowest forms of existence. And it's full of misery. Why is it full of misery? The Shastras explain that there is a lot of pain in the body of a fish. Now, here, the very intelligent scientists will say that the fish doesn't have a brain to experience the pain. And then they don't have pain receptors. Therefore, they don't know what pain is. The fool thinks that the pain can only be experienced in the form that he thinks it. You don't have. Pain is not experienced. It's just common sense, right? Pain is not just experienced through pain receptors on our nerves. What's a heartbreak? Where does the pain come from? Some external source? No. When you lose $1 million, what happened? Where's the pain receptor? Which nerve gets triggered by that? This is just nonsense. They have such a limited understanding of what pain is, which is why they give you painkillers or give you drugs and think that will make you feel happy. But actually, pain is on multiple levels. You have pain that is on the gross platform. You have the pain on the subtle platform. There's pain in the mind. There's pain in intelligence. When your brain's working so hard, it gets, there's intelligence gets clogged. There's pain like that. Then there's ego. Your ego is hurt. We don't say our mind is hurt. We say the ego is hurt. So there's pain that's felt on subtle levels. If that's the case, how is it possible that if pain is experienced on a subtle level, that when the subtle body takes on a gross body, that pain will not exist in that gross body? It must exist. So therefore, this is nonsense. And so, of course, we take the authority of the Vedas. We take the authority of the Vedic scriptures and Srimad Bhagavatam. So there is suffering. And the animal form of life, one constant thing about the animal form of life is that you will see that they're always in fear. Animals are largely in fear. There are animals that don't exhibit that much fear, sure. But still, it doesn't make it a happy life. And the Bhagavatam says that even if that life is considered to be happy, it is temporary in nature. Why would one endeavor when one can achieve that which is never ending? When one can use the temporary human form of life, which is so valuable because one can gain that which is permanent, why would one become attracted to something else that is also temporary? And the reason today's society is so dumb is because it is inspired by these animals. And why is it inspired by these animals? Because impious. The animals are inspired by these things because they're impious. The animals is chimps. They like to, mimic human behavior. So they also throw some clothes in their, in their enclosure, the chimpanzee's enclosure. They'll start wearing them. Then they'll wear the pants, and then frolic around and waste time. And what's the difference? You give them a comb, they'll go around combing the other people's hairs. And this is happiness? We think that when I comb my hair or I go to the hair salon or I do this is happiness? This is not happiness. This is not the goal of life. People think this is the goal of life. They think the whole goal of life is to earn money so that they can live like animals. And they become inspired by animals. Therefore, the Bhagavatam, it gives us many examples of animals that it says, and while the animals are used, so the Bhagavatam uses animals, one, to differentiate between humans and animals. The Bhagavatam also uses animals as examples for lessons to be learned for the purpose of achieving self-realization. Like, for instance, the bee. What do you learn from the bee? You take nectar from multiple locations, but you don't spend much time there. Keep moving. Keep moving. But the bee is also used to demonstrate another thing, which is not positive. What is that? The bee works so hard to store all this nectar and tries to keep it and store it, over collecting. It loses its whole life. It wastes its whole life accumulating, over accumulating that which is valuable, that which it cannot even use. It's too much for it to use, only for somebody else to come and plunder all that wealth. Another example that's given of the bee is that the bee, being attracted by the nectar, goes and gets trapped by the sense of wanting that nectar. The bee gets trapped in the what is that? Like those insect-eating, plant traps, that kind of thing. So then you have multiple. So you have all the 5 senses. What are they? So you have example for the tongue of the animal, being led to its death, being caught by the uncontrolled tongue is fish. Fish gets uncontrolled. What about the ears? The deer. Okay. Eyes? Moth. Skin? Elephant. Then what are we left with? Sight, smell? Yeah, smell. Smell is the bee. The bee it smells, that's how it gets attracted to flowers. It gets attracted to the fragrance. The bees, they like more fragrant flowers than non-fragrant flowers. They prefer fragrant flowers. And okay, but there's also examples of the mind, intelligence, and ego. So what's the example of the attachment, the ego? Is the pigeon. The pigeon, it gets attracted to trying to save its so-called kith and kin. When some pigeons get trapped in a trap, the pigeon hunter just waits because more pigeons will come. The pigeons don't see that these people are caught, therefore I shouldn't go. They'll all go. And he catch a bunch of pigeons. Why? Because this is it's a bodily conception of life, and the pigeons get trapped like this. So this is an example that's given of the pigeons. Another example of that's given is of the python. So the python is explained in a good way. How is the python explained in a good way? There's an endeavor for what? Doesn't over endeavor for bodily maintenance. With bodily maintenance, you don't overly endeavor for bodily maintenance. You manage with what comes. Like what you can get done with your resources for bodily maintenance is enough. We don't have to overly make some great endeavor. I heard gold dust is very good to maintain the body, so I'm going to work very hard so that I can eat some gold dust every day. Or something ridiculous, that there is some far off, like amazing, like springs, I don't know, in the middle of Iceland or something, where I can go and like dip in that and it contains some like great minerals to maintain. No. Whatever one can get or one is able to do in the ordinary course of life, that's enough to maintain the body. And why do you maintain the body? For the purpose of self-realization. Okay, where does the python come as a negative example? Let's see if somebody can think. It's a tough one. I'm not going to blame you if you don't know. Huh? No. The python is also described as becoming lazy because of that. That what happens is it becomes accustomed to being lazy, and because of that, the python is known to starve to death when it doesn't get enough food, because it won't take the endeavor to go and get it. That's an example of becoming attached to living a lazy life. Like, it's good to be lazy, intelligent, but just being attached to laziness is not intelligence. So the python can die because of being lazy. And the python it also dies because of being lazy, because the python tends to become inactive quite especially as it grows a little older. Not due to when it's a little cold or something, it just becomes inactive, and because of this, it becomes easy to catch prey. It gets killed. One example. So the wasp and the caterpillar is given as a good example for the caterpillar. The caterpillars given as a good example for. No. The transformation. That by meditating on the particular thing, that the caterpillar turns into a wasp. It turns into a wasp. It becomes, because it's so scared, and it constantly meditates and it transforms. That's given as an example for one who can become Krishna conscious in the same way. That by meditating on the lotus feet of Krishna, by meditating on Krishna's activities, we can become Krishna conscious. But the counter example in that regard is that by meditating, dhyayato vishayan pumsan sangasteshu upajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha, that also by meditating on the wrong thing, one becomes transformed. So animals are explained in these different interesting ways for us to learn a lot of lessons. And the whole purpose is to direct us to the central point that we need to have taste for the pastimes of the Lord. We need to have taste for the holy name. And that if we don't have taste for the holy name, if we don't have taste for the name, quality, pastimes, we don't have taste for Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad-gita, then we will develop animalistic tastes. We will develop tastes that are similar to animals. And that can cause repeated birth and death. So, the Srimad Bhagavatam, we could start with, Bhagavad-gita there. It gives several verses. Actually, we're kind of running out of time. But I will just go to this one here, Bhagavad-gita. Not very often quoted verse. This one is often quoted, which is Machita Madgata Prana Bodhayantav Parasparam Katayantascha Mam Nityam Tushyanti Cha Ramanti Cha. Oh, how did that turn off? So, the thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. So, Krishna states this, and then later in the chapter, in the same chapter, in text number 18, Arjuna says, because he wants to hear all the different opulences of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He says, Vistarena atmano no yogam vibhutim cha janardhana bhuya kataya triptirhi shrinvato nasti me mritam. And he uses this word amritam, nectar, which Srila Prabhupada used in the purport that we read today. O Janardhan, again, please describe in detail the mystic power of your opulences. I am never satiated in hearing about you. For the more I hear, the more I want to taste the nectar of your words. So then, the famous verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Vayam tu na vritipyama uttama shloka vikrame yatshunvatam rasajnanam swadu swadu pade pade. One can never be satiated, even though one continuously hears the transcendental pastimes of Krishna, who is glorified by excellent prayers. Those who have entered into a transcendental relationship with Krishna relish at every step the descriptions of the pastimes of the Lord. So thus Arjuna is interested in hearing about Krishna, and specifically how he remains the all-pervading Supreme Lord. Now, as far as Amritam, nectar, is concerned, any narration or statement concerning Krishna is just like nectar. And this nectar can be perceived by practical experience. Modern stories, fiction, and histories are different from the transcendental pastimes of the Lord in that one will tire of hearing mundane stories, but one never tires of hearing about Krishna. It is for this reason only that the history of the whole universe is replete with references to the pastimes of the incarnations of Godhead. The Puranas are histories of bygone ages that relate to the pastimes of the various incarnations of the Lord. In this way, the reading matter remains forever fresh despite repeated hearings. But in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 1, Text 19. While so traversing the earth, he simply performed duties to please the Supreme Lord Hari. And, his occupation was pure and independent. He was constantly sanctified by taking his bath in holy places, although he was in the dress of a mendicant and had no hairdressing nor a bed on which to lie. Thus, he was always unseen by his various relatives. This is describing, this is text number 9. Maybe I think I noted it wrong. Hold on. Pull this back up. The verse, let's see. Oh, Krishna, I think I've noted it wrong. There was a verse in the purport. If I see if I can have some time to pull it up, but it's going to be tough. It was on my laptop. I think I noted it wrong. Nectar, let's see. Oh, that's the mistake. Put an extra 1. Okay. Lord Krishna was sent by Arjuna into the assembly as the spiritual master of the whole world, and although his words were heard by some, like Bhishma, as pure nectar, it was not so for others who were completely bereft of the last farthing of past pious works. The king Dhritarashtra or Duryodhana did not take the words of Krishna very seriously. So the thing is, it's swadu swadu pade pade. It's nectar at every step for one who's pious. And for one who's not pious, they don't find it pleasing. There's no difference between Lord Krishna's words, Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's holy name, and his form. So, if Duryodhana or Dhritarashtra did not like the words of Krishna, they didn't find it. Just see, his words were nectar for Bhishma. But for others, it was not. If it is not nectar, what is it? It's like poison. It's repulsive. So it works against for those who are impious, like Duryodhana. And so Srila Prabhupada said that he reached the assembly and spoke about peace, and the message was relished by Bhishma and other leaders because it was spoken by the Lord himself. Whatever he speaks, even the Lord speaks about peace, whatever he speaks, the devotees like to hear because it's spoken by the Supreme Lord. And whatever the Supreme Lord speaks, even if it may so-called seem mundane, it is not mundane. It is fully transcendental because it is uttered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But due to the exhaustion of the pious results of their past deeds, Duryodhana or his father Dhritarashtra did not take the message very seriously. That is the way of persons who have no credit of pious deeds. By past pious deeds, one may become the king of a country, but because the results of the pious deeds of Duryodhana and the company were dwindling, it became evident from their actions that they were sure to lose the kingdom to the Pandavas. The message of Godhead is always like nectar to the devotees, but it is just the opposite to the non-devotees. Note the point that Srila Prabhupada is saying that by pious deeds one may become the king of the country, but the results of the pious deeds were dwindling. What does that mean? When does pious deeds dwindle? When you? Impiously, when you're sinful, the results of your pious deeds will dwindle. Because if you're not sinful, if you're pious, then your pious credit will continue to increase. It won't decrease. Because you're pious. You're not going to become more impious. But those who are becoming impious, from pious, they may be born wealthy and this, but they are impious. They have a sinful tendency. And what happens to those who have sinful tendencies, when they, due to doing some kind of piety, when they get born in a pious environment, they use that pious environment they combine that pious environment with their sinful tendencies and quickly diminish all their pious credit. and simply go to hell. And so, from this we can understand that if we are not attracted to the nectar, if we don't find the message of Godhead to be nectar, it means there's some impiety that is still within us. What is that impiety? That impiety doesn't mean that we are grossly committing sinful activities, but that impiety can primarily be in the form of material desires. That these material desires to enjoy the material world separately from Krishna, especially in the case of persons like ourselves who have come from vikarmic backgrounds, who have come from backgrounds that are just out and out sinful in every single regard. When we don't curb these impious tendencies or don't actively try to pray to Krishna and try to overcome our anarthas, then what happens is we may engage in some impious activity which, sure, we wouldn't lose all the credit of devotional service that we have done, but because of that impious activity, we can lose the taste for the holy name. We can lose taste for practicing Krishna consciousness, at least in this lifetime. We lose the taste for being serious. And then, we have to wait until we get some sense back into our head. So, therefore, Srila Prabhupada, especially for the modern man who is very impious in nature, Srila Prabhupada wanted Varnashrama Dharma to be established, to have these farm communities so that we learn how to live piously. It's important to replace our tendencies to live in a manner how pious people lived and to learn from that culture of piety. How do pious people act? How do they respect each other? How do they respect other living entities? How do they talk? How do they walk? Sita pragyasya kha bhasha, samadhistasya keshava, sita di kim prabhasheta, kim asita, kim asita brajeta kim. Arjuna is asking these questions to Krishna. But we learn, we see that pure devotees, most of the pure devotees that we know about, practically all of them, with the exception of someone like Srila Prabhupada, they existed in pious societies. They appeared in pious societies. They lived among pious people. They interacted with pious people. Therefore, we should learn from such activities. Especially, we are following the Mahajanas. Mahajano yena gatassa pantha. And so therefore, we should take this process of Krishna consciousness seriously, not waste our human form of life. There is no enjoyment that we haven't done. In fact, all these ideas, all this manasija type of enjoyment that we are thinking, it's funny because when the way a devotee sees it and the way a karmi sees it is so different. And it's important that we see like this. For instance, it's known quite often that sea lions or some other creatures like that sometimes surf along with surfers. They ride waves. They also like to ride waves. So they ride waves. The devotee looks at this and thinks, my God, you know the next birth now. Because look, they're doing the same thing. And what are you meditating on? The other person is becoming more inspired by the sea lion or whatever. So we need to become inspired by the activities of the devotees that are found in Srimad Bhagavatam and by the nectar of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We should find this nectarian. And if we don't find it nectarian, we should pray to Krishna, chant the holy name more attentively. Just nāma bhās is enough to destroy our sinful tendencies, destroy all the sins, destroy all our sinful tendencies. Just nāma bhās is sufficient. At least we can chant the holy name offenselessly. At least we can try to sincerely participate in kirtans. Do the simple process of Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is so simple, but our complicated minds make it complicated. Okay, so I'll stop there If there are any questions or comments, please feel free to ask. No? Jita?
It's mentioning that the Kauravas, their pious
Acts
credit
were
was
dwindling. It's right there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So these personalities, like Duryodhana, for instance, they don't come from the spiritual world. Like, for instance, Arjuna. These personalities come to the spiritual world to enact these pastimes, but persons like Duryodhana is not like that.
So, it's a complicated subject matter, but it's also explained that Duryodhana is an eternal associate of Balaram.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
But Acharyas, here's the complicated reality. You have this more than one soul in one body, all that kind of funny, stuff. So complicated, achintya things. Ooh, don't worry, you're only one soul in your body. But yeah, during the Lord's pastimes, these things are there, but demons are not associated generally like that with the Lord's pastimes. They're not eternally associated with the Lord's pastimes like that. It's not that, there is a demon, Arishtasura, that always appears lifetime after lifetime and is an eternal associate of Lord Krishna as Arishtasura. No, it's just some demon will have that tendency, and, Yoga Maya would bring them in when the Supreme Lord performs his pastimes in the material world, and that demon is qualified enough in his demoniac tendencies and so envious of the Supreme Lord that he will take that role and be killed by the Supreme Lord, and that's the Supreme Lord's mercy upon the demon to liberate him. So, it's just that with Duryodhana, the reason that's given is because Balaram has affection for Duryodhana. And the Supreme Lord does not have affection for demons the same way he has affection for devotees. And Acharyas go in detail, and then they say, well, there is a devotee there. That's why the affection is there.
Just regarding, like you're speaking animals, pretty much anytime you preach and you go and speak to people, they'll tell you that my spirit animal is the I haven't had elephant, but it's like the tiger or dolphin, or I want to be a monkey in my next life or a dolphin in my next life. Somehow, like you're saying, they're inspired, or they become attracted to become that living entity. And they dream of it, they think about it, people like imagine it.
This entire society is inspired by animals, and to justify this, they use the theory of evolution. They say, oh yeah, because we've evolved from animals. Yeah, we evolved from them, so we should learn from them. Because, we used to do that all pretty well, and we're here, so we can observe, and it's all part of our nature. Some funny nonsense that they say like this. And yeah, and what is the conception of being the most so-called, today's glorified, religious person? I'll try to pull something up in the meantime.
Just make a quick comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just talking about how the bee teaches by example, and there's another verse in the 4th canto, the 24th chapter, and the 64th verse. Prayers by Lord Shiva. My dear Lord, after creating by your own potencies, you enter within the creation in 4 kinds of forms. Being within the hearts, the 4 kinds of forms are, born from the egg, born from the
Yeah.
embryo, etc. Being within the hearts of the living entities, you know them and know how they are enjoying their senses. The so-called happiness of this material creation is exactly like the bee's enjoyment of honey after it has been collected in the honeycomb. And then Srila Prabhupada mentions how the bees, they are so much after this enjoyment, but actually within the honeycomb, the bees are constantly being stung and attacked by other bees, trying to enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm still looking. Still looking for that. That quote. But anyways. Yeah. Anybody has anything else?
Yeah. On this mention of multiple spirits being in the body, I mean, anyways, I haven't read anything, I guess, relating to that, so where does it go more in depth? Or where's this like more spoken on? Or
About what?
multiple souls in the body? And how does that relate to like personalities, or is this just like a question? It's like, is it like two?
It's not so much a topic that's relevant for our spiritual life.
I'm just like curious now.
It's kind of high flown stuff that's described by the acharyas when describing the different associates and pastimes of the Supreme Lord. You'll eventually learn about it. It's found in the acharyas' works. And the Goswamis say some things, and then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur starts commenting on that, and like that. But yeah, I mean that's so. There's not the main problem when we approach these subject matters is that it's not understandable. They state it when they reveal it. They state it, and it just increases the amazement of how Krishna's pastimes are inconceivable and his devotees are inconceivable. And that's really the lesson out of everything. It's not so much like a logical thing to kind of grasp with our head.
Then in that connection, this was something I talked about with Loke Prabhu the other day. Not trying to rely on one's own endeavor to try to understand aspects of the philosophy, but at the same time, Prabhupada says that we should use our intelligence, like, to understand, what's given in Shastra.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you can't just be blind acceptance and whatnot. So I was
Sure.
wondering maybe you could speak on that then.
Well, this is different.
Well, yeah, I'm just maybe think about that.
You're just making a comment.
No, I was asking if you could like speak on that.
I mean, you understand the things that are relevant to our spiritual life. The main thing we have to understand is how the material world and the three modes of material nature bind us and things like that. As far as Krishna's pastimes go, it's not, we hear about it to understand Krishna's qualities and activities, but even when we approach the subject matter, there is a predominant understanding that this is achintya, it is inconceivable in nature. And if we don't understand that, we don't understand the inconceivability of Krishna's position, his pastimes, his name, his form, his qualities, that we can only understand these things to the extent that Krishna reveals it to us. You may have a book and it may say everything and you still won't understand anything. And therefore, it's the process of Krishna consciousness that's important, and Krishna reveals these things to us. Yeah, it's the process. Okay, Mataji's, anything? No. All right. Okay, Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindabhyo cha patitānām pāvanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Yeah, this comment was on one Christian guy who says that the highest happiness and achievement in life is to get married. And that marriage is a life-changing experience, and there is nothing more greater than that in life. The thing is, this is the extent of the mundane religions. That's all they go, you know. Sure, it's better to be married than run around like a dog, but that isn't the highest perfection in life. Hare Krishna.